All right, Algebra 1, we are talking about solving systems by substitution today. Now, you might have already taken some notes on this, so if you did, great, you're a little ahead. I'm going to just briefly go through the ones we did in the first part here. So if you want to just pause here and get this copied down, that's fine. If we know what x or y equals, so for instance in this problem we know y equals 4x minus 1, we can just plug that whole expression in to the other equation for that same variable. Okay, so step 1, we need to solve for x or y. It doesn't really matter which. If we're going to use substitution, more than likely there's going to be x or y already by itself, so we don't really have to do step 1 a lot of the time. Then step 2, we go ahead and substitute that expression into the other equation for that variable and then solve. Once we've solved x or y, then we go ahead and plug it back in to find the other equation. So that'll make more sense once we do a couple examples here. So in this case, it started out where y equals this, y equals that. We go ahead and, okay, y equals 4x minus 1. I'm going to plug that in to the other one for y. Since y equals this, I'm going to replace this with 4x minus 1. So instead of y equals 2x minus 5 in the second equation, it's going to be 4x minus 1 equals 2x minus 5. And then I basically just solve like I would any other problem. So get the x by on one side there, and then solve just like we would any other equation. Once you've got x, though, we got to plug it back in to one of the original equations. It doesn't matter which one because they're going to be the same exact answer. So I plugged it into the top one. Since it was x equals negative 2, I said 4 times negative 2 minus 1. And then I solved. Okay, so let's look at number 2. You might have done this one for homework. So since y equals 6x, I'm going to replace y in the other equation. Okay? So since y equals this, I'm going to replace the y in the other equation. So instead of 2x plus 3y, it's going to be 2x plus 3 parentheses 6x equals negative 20. Okay, so it's the exact same equation. I'm just replacing the y with what it equals. And then we just work it out like we would any other problem. So 3 times 6 is 18, so 2x plus 18x equals negative 20. Add those two together, that's like terms, 20x equals negative 20. Divide by 20, I get x equals negative 1. But again, I'm not done. I want to go ahead and plug that in to the original equations. So I'm going to pick the one that has y by itself. So y equals 6 times, not x this time, but negative 1. So 6 times negative 1. Y equals negative 6, and I'm done. So x comma y, I've got negative 1, negative 6. And there we go. That's all there is to it. So number 3, we kind of did this one together already, but since y was by itself, I took x minus 9 and plugged it in for y in the other equation. Again, I got to solve that for x, and what I ended up with was x equals negative 7. So I plugged negative 7 in for x in the original equation, the one with y by itself, and I got 2. So let's look at this last one here. Then we'll go to the back side. So x is already by itself. X equals 4 at y plus 7. So instead of 2 times x, I'm going to replace that with that parentheses. So instead of 2 times x, it's 2 parentheses 4y plus 7. And then everything else stays the same. So minus 6y equals 12. Okay, and now we solve. So first thing I need to do to solve is get rid of parentheses. So 2 times 4 is 8y. 2 times 7 is 14. Minus 6y equals 12. And then I combine like terms. So 8y minus 6y is 2y plus 14 equals 12. And then I solve, so subtract 14 to both sides. I've got 2y equals negative 2. Divide by 2, y equals negative 1. So there's my y value. So to solve for the x value, I plug it back in. Which one has y or x by itself? The top one. So x equals 4 times negative 1 plus 7. And so that's negative 4 plus 7, which is positive 3. And so x comma y, 3 comma negative 1. Final answer. Okay. So let's go to the back side and do a couple more examples here. So on the back side, we have some examples where the x or the y are not by itself, which makes things a little trickier, but not much. So in this first one, you kind of want to look at which one is almost by itself. So this has a 2, this has a 5, this has a 3. The only one that doesn't have anything is the y. So I'm going to get that y by itself by subtracting the 2x out of there. And so that's going to be y equals negative 2x minus 2. Now I have y by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and take that and plug it in for y in the other equation. Okay, so what that looks like is 5x plus 3 parentheses negative 2x minus 2 equals negative 8. And so I distribute 5x minus 6x minus 6 equals negative 8. Combine like terms, that's negative 1x minus 6 equals negative 8. Add 6 to both sides. That's going to be negative 1x equals negative 2. Divide by negative 1, x equals positive 2. And then once again, you got to plug that back in. Probably the one that has y by itself. So y equals negative 2 times 2 minus 2. So y equals negative 4 minus 2, which ends up being negative 6. And so y, or x comma y is 2 comma negative 6. There we go. So we'll do one more example and then let you go into your examples. So let's look at number 8 here. Again, the one that's by itself almost is x. So I'm going to subtract 4y, and I get x equals negative 4y plus 0. But I don't really need the plus 0. So since x is by itself, I'm going to replace x in the other equation. So 3 parentheses negative 4y plus 2y equals 20. So that's negative 12y plus 2y equals 20. Those are like terms, so negative 10y equals 20. Divided by negative 10, y equals negative 2. And so we go ahead and plug that in to the one that has it by itself. So x equals negative 4 times negative 2. And we get 8. So x comma y, 8, negative 2. Okay, so you are going to go ahead and do the worksheet 1 through 8. Okay, all of them should have x or y by itself already, so you're just taking whatever it equals, plugging it into the other equation. Okay, and then tomorrow we'll be practicing that a little bit, as well as getting started with our last method. Peace.